California Governor Newsom accuses President Trump of blocking his speech at Davos.
I was going to speak last night. It was a well-established event at the USA House. After Trump's speech, they made sure that I didn't. They made sure it was canceled. And that's what's happening in the United States of America. Freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. Is it surprising the Trump administration didn't like my commentary and wanted to make sure that I was not allowed to speak? No. It's consistent with this administration and their authoritarian tendencies.
Authoritarian tendencies. And here is Lara Trump to sort it all out. Lara, it seems to me Newsom thrives on the attention that he gets from Trump. So why doesn't the president just ignore him?
Well, in this situation, it sounds like the White House had nothing to do with him not speaking. The State Department had nothing to do with this. Apparently, the event organizers didn't want him there. I'm sure he didn't help his cause, Stuart, by going over there and slamming a lot of world leaders. But I think the bigger question for Gavin Newsom is if he's going to run for president in 2028, which is clearly what all of this and everything he's doing is about right now, shouldn't he be at home in California focusing on his state? Shouldn't he want the people who are fleeing California because they say it's too expensive, they can't sustain their life there right now in California, and they are all moving out of his state to, better pastures, nicer pastures around the country? Shouldn't he be focusing on that? But of course he's not. He's there rubbing shoulders with the elites in Davos.
Shouldn't he be trying to say something nice to President Trump? Because California badly needs Trump's federal money, and they're not going to get it if they keep up like this. They should be nice to Trump.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. I think a lot more people should be nice to Trump. I mean, look at what he was doing on the world stage in Davos. My gosh, what a difference, Stuart, from President Joe Biden to President Trump. The world is paying attention. It really feels like everything is falling into place because we have strength here in the United States of America. When we are a strong country, when our economy is booming, that impacts the rest of the world in a positive way. And man, you saw it on the stage yesterday with President Trump. It was amazing to see. You can feel that America is back. America feels it, and I think the rest of the world does too.
Well, President Trump is going to travel across the country on a weekly basis to speak to voters before the midterms. His first stop's going to be in Iowa next week. What message do Republicans need to spread to voters? Because at the moment, they're not feeling that life is affordable.
Well, I think they're going to start feeling the affordability come into play. That's, of course, the key word that the Democrats have tried to be pushing out there in the forefront for the past couple months. Now, they're going to have a problem because life is actually becoming more affordable for people. We know inflation is trending down. We know wage growth is real. We know that, gas, for example, is down around $2.50 a gallon. In a lot of states, it's under $3 a gallon in most states in the country. So things are trending in the right direction. But come maybe the second quarter of this year, all the experts predict, Stuart, that the one big beautiful bill, the no tax on tips, overtime, Social Security, that is going to hit, and that is going to make life so much better for so many people. I think this president needs to go out and talk about all of those things, the groundwork he's laid, the money that he's brought into this country, the agreements he's made on trade that are benefiting American workers now. Those are all going to be important things to remind the American people of. And I think maybe the most important thing he needs to talk about is why people should come out and vote in the midterms. We know that people get inspired to come vote in those presidential elections. Midterm elections, a lot of people say, I'm going to stay home. The answer to the American people as to whether or not they should stay home is if you want to see the winning continue, if you want to see things continue trending in the right direction, and you want the last 2 years of President Trump in the Oval Office to be a success for every American citizen, you have to get out and you have to vote in these midterm elections. He's got to get people pumped up. And we know, Stuart, no one else can get people jazzed and pumped up like President Donald J. Trump.
You got that right. Lara Trump, great stuff. Thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.